The creatures buzzing around in the air were no ordinary insects. They were giants. Welcome to the Carboniferous Period, a time when insects and other arthropods had grown to mind-boggling sizes. In a world where humans and mammals hadn't yet evolved, these terrifying creatures ruled the skies, the waters, and the forests. But just how terrifying were these ancient bugs? How did they manage to get so big? And what was life really like in a world full of giant scorpions, massive dragonflies, and the biggest millipedes the Earth has ever known? Let's take a journey back into the Carboniferous and discover what it was like in a time when bugs were the true kings of the world. Chapter 1. The Carboniferous Period. Earth's oxygenated jungle. To understand the giant insects of the Carboniferous, we first need to know a bit about the world they inhabited. The Carboniferous Period, which lasted from around 359 to 299 million years ago, was marked by high levels of oxygen in the atmosphere, around 35%, compared to the 21% oxygen we breathe today. This increase in oxygen allowed animals to grow much larger than they could today. Giant trees like lycopods and horsetail ferns created a dense canopy of greenery, making Earth look like one massive, humid swamp. The oceans were filled with huge fish and bizarre amphibians. But the most fascinating part of this time was the insects. The high oxygen content allowed insects to grow to proportions that are almost unbelievable today. Their exoskeletons, which limit their size due to the lack of oxygen inside them, were no longer a problem. With more oxygen in the air, insects could grow larger and thrive in ways that seem more suited to a science fiction movie than real history. Chapter 2. Giant dragonflies, the sky's deadliest predators. If you think modern dragonflies are impressive with their agility and speed, wait until you hear about their ancient cousins. One of the most terrifying creatures of the Carboniferous Period was a species of giant dragonfly called Meganeura. This ancient predator had a wingspan of up to 2.5 feet, about the size of a small hawk. With massive eyes, sharp jaws, and the ability to fly at high speeds, Meganeura would have been one of the top predators in the air. Imagine a bug the size of a bird swooping down on smaller creatures. Prey didn't stand a chance. But these giant dragonflies weren't just about intimidation. They were incredibly efficient hunters, capable of catching and devouring smaller insects and even small amphibians or fish that lived in the swamps. And to make things even creepier, Meganeura didn't need to worry about modern predators like birds, since they hadn't evolved yet. It was a true apex predator of its time. Chapter 3. The Giant Millipedes, the Earth's massive crawlers. Now let's move from the air to the ground. In the Carboniferous, the largest land animals weren't mammals or reptiles, but gigantic arthropods. One of the most terrifying of these was the arthroplura, a giant millipede that could grow to lengths of up to 8 feet. Yes, you heard that right. 8 feet long. Arthroplura wasn't just big, it was also heavily armored, making it look like a prehistoric tank creeping through the forest floor. These giant millipedes would have looked like nightmares come to life. They were herbivores, feeding on the lush vegetation that filled the land. But with their massive size and tough armored bodies, they were unmatched by most predators. Despite their large size, they had to contend with other large creatures, including massive amphibians. But these slow-moving giants were remarkably hard to catch. Imagine walking through the Carboniferous jungles and having one of these monstrous creatures casually crawl past you. Just looking at their long, segmented bodies, it's enough to make anyone's skin crawl. Chapter 4. Giant Scorpions. Terrifying, armored death machines. For many, scorpions are already pretty scary. Imagine a giant scorpion that is nearly 9 feet long. Yes, 9 feet. In the Carboniferous period, scorpions like Jaekelopterus roamed the earth, and they were true monsters compared to the small, relatively harmless scorpions we know today. These ancient sea scorpions had massive claws, capable of crushing smaller prey. Their tail was equipped with a venomous sting, ready to incapacitate anything foolish enough to cross their path. Jaekelopterus wasn't just a land-dwelling killer. It was an aquatic hunter, patrolling the shallow waters, ambushing prey in the murky depths. Imagine swimming in the murky waters of a Carboniferous swamp and suddenly seeing the shadow of one of these giants crawling toward you with pincers outstretched, ready to strike. Chapter 5. The Rise and Fall of the Giants. So, what led to these monstrous creatures becoming so large in the first place? The main reason for these massive sizes was the high oxygen levels during the Carboniferous. With more oxygen available in the atmosphere, insects and arthropods could take in more oxygen with each breath, which allowed them to grow much larger than their modern counterparts. Their exoskeletons, which normally limit the size of insects, were no longer an issue. But all good things must come to an end. As the Earth's atmosphere began to change, the oxygen levels started to decline. This, combined with the arrival of new predators and changes in the environment, led to the extinction of many of these giant insects. The world slowly shifted into the next geological period, and the age of giant insects came to a close. Today, the only remnants of these terrifying creatures are fossils, a reminder of a time when the Earth's atmosphere made it possible for creatures like Meganeura, Jaekelopterus, and Arthropods to reach epic proportions. Chapter 6. What would have it been like to live in the Carboniferous? So what would it have been like to live during the Carboniferous? Well, imagine this. The air would have been thick and humid, filled with the sounds of insects buzzing and chirping as they flew past. Everywhere you looked, you would have seen giant trees and dense ferns towering over you. The ground would have been alive with huge millipedes, massive beetles, and the occasional giant scorpion or giant centipede. The skies would have been filled with the shadow of giant dragonflies, hunting smaller creatures and fighting each other for dominance. It would have been a world of monsters where survival was a constant challenge and anything could be your next threat, from a massive scorpion crawling from the depths of a swamp to a giant dragonfly swooping down for a meal. Conclusion: the legacy of the giants. The Carboniferous period was a time when nature's creativity ran wild. It was a golden age of giants, giant insects, giant plants, and giant arthropods that would never be seen again. While today's world might feel safer without 8-foot millipedes and massive scorpions, the world of the Carboniferous remains a fascinating chapter in the history of life on Earth. And the next time you see a modern dragonfly or a small scorpion, take a moment to imagine what it would have been like to live in a world where these creatures were the size of cars and giants ruled the Earth.